north of England, nestled between brooding hills and a dense forest called Blackbrush Wood, lay a forgotten village named Deernwick. It did not appear on modern maps. There were no roads leading in, only footpaths and stories, most of which were whispered and unfinished. For generations, the village had thrived in isolation, untouched by technology or time. But there was a reason Deernwick endured, and it wasn't luck. It was the Rite. James Whitaker was a folklore professor at York University. When he discovered a reference to Deernwick's autumn rite in an obscure 1897 field journal, curiosity overcame reason. With a passion for ancient traditions, James contacted the local historical society, only to be met with discomfort and warnings. "Leave it be," said one archivist. "That place holds what we were never meant to remember." That, of course, only intrigued him further. He set out on foot with a rucksack, a camera, and a notebook. He walked through pastures, over stone fences, and eventually into the dense dark of Blackbrush Wood. By dusk, he emerged from the trees into a clearing where Deernwick stood like a place, preserved in amber, thatched cottages, smoke curling from stone chimneys, and silence so pure it pressed against his eardrums. He was met with guarded eyes and stiff smiles. The villagers looked related, pale eyes, sun-dried skin, and a calmness that felt rehearsed. James was granted lodging in the home of an elderly widow, Mara, who prepared him lamb stew and nettle tea. Her voice was soft and her words were odd. "The trees are watchful this season," she said as she served him. "They know it's nearly time." "Time for what?" James asked, flipping open his notebook. She only smiled and lit a bundle of herbs in the fireplace, muttering a prayer in a dialect he couldn't place. Outside, the wind began to howl through the branches of Blackbrush Wood. James explored the village the next day. He saw children weaving straw dolls with button eyes. He noticed bundles of herbs and symbols scratched into barn doors. No one explained the customs. They only said it was for the harvest. He overheard murmurs. "The old blood must sleep. The soil remembers. He watches from the roots." James pressed Myra about the festival. She hesitated, then shared. "We call it the harvest rite. Once every 7 years, we offer thanks to the land keeper." "The who?" "A spirit older than the church, older than the stones. He keeps the land fertile, but he must be honored properly." James asked to witness it. Myra said nothing, only handing him a carved bone pendant. "Wear this if you want the trees to ignore you." That night, James couldn't sleep. He ventured into the woods by lantern light. The air felt alive, charged. He saw twisted trees with roots like claws, and strange standing stones ringed with ash and feathers. He found a clearing. In its center, a stone altar darkened with what could only be dried blood. Suddenly he heard chanting. Villagers cloaked in deer hides and garlands of berries walked in procession. At their center, a young woman, blindfolded, whispering prayers. James hid behind a tree. They laid her upon the altar and began to chant in a guttural tongue. As their pitch rose, the trees began to creak, not in the wind, but as if something massive was moving through them. And then, silence. No scream, no struggle. The girl lay motionless. The villagers bowed. And then all torches were extinguished. When James lit his lantern again, the clearing was empty. The next morning, James confronted Myra. "They sacrificed her," he hissed. "I saw it." Myra's expression didn't change. She volunteered. "Her family will never go hungry. The crops will thrive. Her spirit now joins the roots." "This is murder." "No," she said firmly. "This is survival." James ran. But as he left her cottage, every villager turned to look at him, smiling. That night, James tried to flee through the woods. But Blackbrush was different now. The trees had shifted. Paths doubled back. Whispering voices grew louder. He tripped over roots that weren't there before. And then he saw him. A tall, bark-skinned figure with antlers woven from roots. Moss growing where eyes should be. The air around him stank of wet earth and rot. And yet, James couldn't move. "You trespass," the voice echoed not in his ears, but in his bones. "You saw, you judged. Now choose, become one with the soil, or bring the Rite to your world." James awoke in his university office 3 days later, muddy and shaken. No memory of how he returned. He tried to tell colleagues. No one believed him. But something was wrong. His dreams were filled with whispering woods. His skin itched like roots growing beneath. He began documenting everything, giving lectures about forgotten rites and folk bargains. And then, in the autumn of that year, he disappeared. Weeks later, strange symbols were found carved into the university trees. Students spoke of a figure in antlers watching them from the edge of the quad. The harvest had begun again.